Hello again, this is Mr. Smith, and we were hanging out talking about Mercury last time, and you can see Mercury is a solid planet. We're gonna talk about something different this time, but before we do, I wanted to show you this over here that I've clicked on and highlighted is planet Earth. That's what it looks like from Mercury. So this time we're going to talk about Saturn. Saturn is the sixth planet from the Sun, and it's quite a bit farther away. It is 890 million miles from the Sun, and at its closest point, it is 746 million miles away from Earth. So let's go to Saturn right now and check it out. It takes a while to get to because it's in space. And there we go. Here's Saturn. The first thing you notice about Saturn is its rings. Rings are made mostly of ice and some dust particles, some little rocks. There's a couple of theories as to how the rings were formed. Some theories are that a large asteroid or even a small planet crashed into Saturn. Other theories are that something orbiting Saturn broke apart. And actually, we're going to talk about that. I have a way that we can sort of demonstrate that. But before we do, Saturn is neat because as you move it around, you can see all the moons attached to it. There's a moon way out here. There's a moon here. We're gonna show you a few of those. We're mostly going to talk about the largest one. But here's what I want to just show you. If you go around and look at Saturn through... Alright, if you look at Saturn, like, with the sun behind it, you can kind of see that the rings extend even farther. There's, like, thin rings that are very difficult to see. And actually, it's interesting. The rings of Saturn are not visible except through a telescope. You can see Saturn in the night sky. Kind of looks like a big star, but you can't see its rings unless you have a telescope. So we're going to dive into, like, what the rings are sort of made of. Okay guys, so this is a different game. This is called Universe Sandbox. This game does a lot of really cool things, but it really has a good way of showing. This is Mercury, the planet we just talked about. And this out here is Saturn. That's how far away Saturn is. We can click on it and sort of zoom in on it. Now this game doesn't put the rings on Saturn because it slows down your computer too much. So, but we can add the rings and take a look at them. I'm trying to get to where the sun is. There we go. So that's a good picture of how far away the sun is. But I like this game because you can sort of really get a sense for how big things are. Let me focus back on the sun. Where's the sun? There we go. So you can see all the planets, and then this is the asteroid belt. We'll probably talk about that eventually too. So anyways, we're gonna use this to talk about how Saturn's rings are formed. So we're gonna start a new simulation. Nothing. We're gonna create, guys. This is awesome. So we're gonna put in Saturn. Again, this starts Saturn without its rings. So that is what Saturn looks like without its rings. But the neat thing about this game is you can add rings to anything. So we're gonna add Saturn's rings. We have to click on Saturn. And then we can add, I'm just going to click it once. So you can see how it added, like, sort of some particles. And you can see the very small particles. So you kind of get a sense for what the rings are. It doesn't look like rings right now because we didn't add that many of them. But if you click a bunch of times, see, this is why it doesn't add the rings, because it really slows things down. But now it looks like Saturn's rings, right, guys? It's awesome. And another interesting thing you can do with this game is you can sort of get rid of things. So we could kind of see what happens if we get rid of Saturn. What happens to the rings, guys? What do you think will happen? So should we explode it or delete it? We could delete it first so you could see what happens without the effect of the explosion. Then we'll explode Saturn because that's kind of fun. So let's get rid of Saturn and see what happens to the rings. Oh, what happened, guys? So without the gravitational pull of Saturn, the rings just kind of float away. I think it's interesting they're not spinning anymore either. So anyways, alright, so let's start over again. I did promise we would blow up Saturn and see what that did to the rings. So let's add a planet. We'll add Saturn. Saturn's rings, we'll add a few. Alright, so what'll happen to the rings if Saturn exploded for some reason? I know, we're getting a little violent here, but it's kind of fun, huh? So let's blow up Saturn, guys. Oh, kind of the same thing, just faster. So anyways, that's a little demonstration of how Saturn's rings kind of, how they're formed and what they're made of. So we're going to go back to Space Engine to talk about some of the moons. Alright guys, we're back here in Space Engine, and this is not a complete list of Saturn's moons. Your worksheet says there are 62 known moons, and we just learned on CNN 10 last week that they found like 20 more. I'm going to try and link to an article that talks about that in the video. But I wanted to look at some of these moons here. A lot of these moons starting closest to Saturn, they don't really look like moons. We're going to check it out. Okay, so a lot of the closer moons look a lot like this. To me, this doesn't look like a moon. It looks more like an asteroid. I love looking at the rings from right here. This is pretty cool. This is how close Saturn is. That's how close the sun is, so it's pretty far away though. The sun is 890 million miles away, and when it's closest to Earth, it's 746 million miles away from Earth. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but Saturn's pretty far out. So anyways, this is one of the moons. We're gonna go to another one. There we go. This one kind of looks like a walnut to me. It's pretty cool. Anyways. So this is another moon. A lot of these moons don't look like moons, like I said. They're kind of just big rocks. There's craters on them because there's no atmosphere on a lot of these moons. They're kind of just out there. They get hit from time to time. See, now we're getting into more of the round-shaped moons that look more like real moons. This one's cool. This one, it looks like it has like a big crater over here, like maybe it got hit by something kind of big. I don't think there's any clouds or atmosphere in any of these yet. No. So this is Tethys. If we land on Tethys, let's see what it looks like. I haven't really landed on Saturn yet. We'll probably do that. Give it a second. So that's kind of what it looks like. Not real interesting. Frigid airless micro aquaria. So micro aquaria makes me think it might be made of some kind of ice. Kind of looks like ice too, doesn't it? Alright, so that's Tethys. That's one of the medium-sized moons. We want to see the big guy. When I realized it did that, that was cool. So we're traveling a little bit farther now. Oh, we're going through the rings. Love it. Okay, so Titan, I don't know if you noticed, but there's kind of a glow around Titan because it kind of has an atmosphere. So let's take a look. If we turn off the atmosphere, you can see. It makes a difference. Does it have any clouds? Yes, it does have clouds. So this kind of gives the impression that maybe they think there might be water on Titan. Oh, let's turn the atmosphere back on too. Oh, that's comet tails. That's not atmosphere. And clouds. Let's take a look at the info for Titan. Titan is the largest moon of Saturn and the second largest moon in the solar system. It is also the only moon to possess a substantial atmosphere, as well as the only body other than Earth to hold liquid on its surface. So yes, guys, that is water. Okay, so that's Titan. Let's try and land on Titan. So that's kind of what Titan looks like. There's an atmosphere, so the sky is kind of colored a little bit more than normal. It doesn't just look like space. Ooh, what is that Saturn? That is Saturn. That's what Saturn looks like from Titan, theoretically. We're not positive, obviously. How would you know that? But, oh, you can see there's some kind of objects visible in the sky. Let's see if we can click on that. Not letting me click on that. Okay. Let me see if I can find where the sun is. Should be able to see the sun because we're in the light. No, that's Saturn. Maybe the... Oh, no, there's the sun. Okay, so that's what the sun looks like. Hypothetically, possibly, from the surface of Titan. So we're going to go back out. I want to look at one more thing. Alright, I had to have Saturn clicked. Alright, the last thing I want to do about the moons is we want to go to the farthest moon to see how far away it is. It's pretty far. This is Phoebe. Phoebe is a frigid asteroid. So you can see we just kind of left Saturn. Traveling pretty far. Okay, so this is Phoebe. Again, looks more like an asteroid. That little cluster right there, I don't know if you realize, that's Saturn. That's how far away it is. So it's pretty far. It's a good distance. And that's the sun from Phoebe. The farthest moon on Saturn. I don't know if it's the farthest moon. They just discovered like 20 more. So I guess this is the farthest one that this game will show you. It's possibly not the farthest. I don't know how far some of the ones they haven't seen yet are. Land on object. We're going to fly all the way from here and land. Whoa, that was... anyone motion sick now? So that's what the rings look like from the surface of Saturn. I didn't try to do this as cool as it is. Just kind of went there, but it's pretty cool. You could see it less in the sunlight, but if you look over here, the rings are pretty easy to see. So that's kind of cool. Now, we wouldn't really be able to stand on Saturn because Saturn is a gas planet. So let's read a little bit about what Saturn is made of. Saturn is the outer of Sol's two gas giants, massive worlds composed primarily of hydrogen and helium. It has no solid surface. Instead, it has a steadily thickening hydrogen-helium atmosphere, which eventually becomes liquid metallic hydrogen as depth increases. At the center of the planet, there is likely a solid rocky core. So there's like kind of a core in the middle, kind of like if you take apart a baseball or a golf ball. There's kind of a hard part in the middle, but the outside is kind of soft. So anyways, that is Saturn. The rings are composed mainly of water and modest amounts of carbon. So water, ice, and a little bit of carbon, which is rocks. The particles in the rings range in size from dust grains to chunks of material in tens of meters wide or more. So there's some very tiny ones and there's some pretty big ones. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video about Saturn. Saturn's fascinating to me. I love the rings. I love how it looks. I love that view where you can kind of see the really thin rings. And I love doing this where you can see the whole sort of planetary system. We really only have the Earth and the Moon, so it's not a very complicated system, but this is a lot. There's a lot rotating around Saturn, which means it has a fairly strong gravitational pull, because that Phoebe, that was pretty far out there. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video about Saturn, and I hope you have a great day. Bye, guys!